This is Mario. Beloved, don't be surprised. But it's it is surprising. I've been on more in the past month than my one and only sister has been heard on her own program. But like did I say, no? Here I is. And so let me express sincere gratitude. It's a Wednesday, but we are grateful and we're going to do our very best to stay in line with the fact that it is indeed Wednesday when my one and only sister would be, well, let's just say, enunciating things educational as she is an elected member of the Board of Education. And well, that has been her career. She is a retired teacher. So, yes, she has had a career in education and she continues to, well, be a beacon for us all when it comes to things about education in our unincorporated territory. So, yes, we're going to do our best to, well, share what I am able to about education. And at last count now, but I think this is the fifth. Yeah, this is, I think, the fifth time that I am sitting in for her in the past, I don't know, month and a half, something like that. And yes, beloved, we have been making every effort to try to get us on the same page with what is known as knowledge. That's what we have education. Knowledge, beloved, comes in two kinds. That's it. There's just two kinds of knowledge, and it can be confusing, but if you bite and blow, take your time and analyze it, it won't appear to be confusing at all, but rather just common sense. That's what it is. And so, what's with these two kinds of knowledge? Well, as I have been trying to explain, there is the universal knowledge and there is the local knowledge. Knowledge that it does not all matter where you come across it, it is one and the same. And we've been using the most common example that I could think of, which is just arithmetic, the science of mathematics, if you will, and that 1 plus 1 equals 2, and that it doesn't matter where you are, how you perceive it, it is scientific because every time you add 1 and 1, you're going to get 2. And that's what we mean by science. That is the kind of knowledge that is universal. It is everywhere, and everywhere you find it, it is the exact same thing. 1 plus 1 equals 2. The other kind of knowledge is what we call local, meaning that it depends on where you are, what circumstances you find yourself in, who you might be talking to, what you might be doing. All of these and many others will be a condition determining how the knowledge is applied. And so, beloved, we usually refer to this kind of knowledge as the values that our people have. And the principles that the people might live by, and the beliefs. What kind of beliefs do those people have? And so this is what makes it so distinct and different from science, because it depends on where you are, what you're doing, who you're talking to, what the circumstance you find yourself in, as to what values we might be talking about, what principles we might be trying to uphold, and what beliefs we might be trying to understand. And this is what makes it localized knowledge as opposed to the universal knowledge. And beloved, it is something that, well, for whatever reasons, many educational institutions don't spend time explaining these fundamental concepts that will explain so much about people in general, how we function, how we live. And beloved, what makes it even more perplexing, more confusing, if you will, is the terminology, the words that we use. Because we don't speak of the localized knowledge as just values, as just principles, or as just beliefs. We look at this localized knowledge and call them the humanities. Yes, the humanities. The knowledge that human beings appropriate for themselves to help them best live in the circumstances that they find themselves. And humanities, beloved, are what distinguish one people from another. No two people can be expected to have the same values, but then at the same time, you could find two or more people who share the same values. The same thing with principles. What principles do you or your people hold dear to you and respect and live by? What about the beliefs? More often than not, we kind of interpret and analyze belief spiritually. And so we call them religion. And like all other humanities depend on the people, where they live, how they live, what kind of beliefs they hold, what kind of religion do they embrace. But when you look at the values, the principles, and the beliefs, and you bring them all together, you could then say that these are the humanities of these people, whomsoever they may be. But you could always define them by the values they embrace, the principles they live by, and the beliefs that they swear to be a part of them. And so we could then look at knowledge as being science and humanity, scientific or humanities. And beloved, as a conscious descendant of enslaved Africans, I find this to be, well, critically important for us to understand. Because as we find ourselves now, I think we'll all agree that our ancestors were successful in emancipating us or abolishing physical enslavement, what we refer to as shackle enslavement. We were dehumanized and just conquered, enslaved, and made to be property, objects, things that belong to somebody else. So that as a shackling slave, we will have no control over ourselves. We belong to somebody else. And they determine how we live and even if we live. That's slavery. But as I'm saying, I think we'll all agree that our ancestors successfully emancipated us from that system of enslavement, shackle enslavement. The question that presented itself and continues to challenge us to this day is, well, once we are emancipated from physical enslavement, once shackle enslavement is abolished, what's next? Well, I think that for the most part, we find agreement that, hey, we were shackled, enslaved. We had no humanity. And so we now have to venture onto the challenge of building our own humanities. Recreating the humanity that was, well, ripped away from us as our ancestors were deprived of their humanity. And we now call it the struggle for mental emancipation. Meaning that all gratitude, our respect to our ancestors, they took on the extremely challenging battle of conquering physical enslavement. It took centuries, beloved, couple of centuries for us, right here in what is now the Virgin Islands of the United States. Our ancestors served a couple centuries just trying to defeat chattel enslavement, trying to abolish physical slavery. And we did. That's why we have the holiday now, July 3rd, 1848. Our ancestors successfully emancipated us, abolished physical slavery. So that's how we continue to find ourselves engaged now in the struggle for mental emancipation. And that is why we find it so important that we understand that knowledge comes in two kinds: the scientific and the humanity. And beloved, I could just simply ask the question, we could put a ruler, a tape measure, whatever metric you want to use to try and determine the progress or lack of progress that we've been able to make over the past almost 2 centuries of struggle for mental emancipation. And if you put a metric to it, you would have to answer the questions. Because, beloved, we are talking about humanities. So you would have to ask, well, what are our values now as the emancipated descendants of chattel enslavement? What values do we have as a people right here in the unincorporated territory of the Virgin Islands of the United States? Yes, we can pretty much recite the history of our emancipation from physical enslavement, from chattel enslavement. we've pretty much come to understand that historical stage. It is what came after July 3rd. That struggle for mental emancipation that we are still, at least hopefully, we are still totally engaged in. And like I said, beloved, if you put a metric to it, you would have to answer the question, what are the values that we now have as a people emancipated from physical enslavement, but still colonized? What are our values? How about our principles? What principles do we live by? Or have we gotten to that point yet to have a comprehension of the principles that we as a people stand for in this unincorporated territory of the Virgin Islands of the United States? Like I said, put a metric to it, get out your ruler, your tape measure, and you tell me, what are the values that we embrace? What are the principles that we live by? And then, beloved, when it comes to belief, the question is obvious. What religion do we have as a people emancipated from chattel enslavement? What is our religion? Because those are the categories that help us define our humanities, the values, the principles, the beliefs. And beloved, the mere fact that we have to accept the reality that whilst we've been able to overcome being a Catholic people, that we've been able to overcome being an enslaved people, the question is staring us in the face. Have we, or are we ever to overcome the reality that we are a colonized people? You tell me. Well, we're at the top of the hour, beloved, and so stick with me. Full stream. We'll be right back. back, beloved. And yes, indeed, we try to put into perspective what we understand about things scientific as opposed to the humanities. And beloved, it is something that, well, because of the historical baggage that we carry, we sometimes are unaware that our history did not begin with slavery and enslavement. That there indeed was a time before we were conquered, before we were enslaved, before we were colonized. But because of the experience, that dehumanizing experience called chattel enslavement, way too many of us just don't comprehend that we had the most glorious of histories before we were conquered. And so, yes, we did have our own values. And yes, we did have our own principles. And yes, we did have our own beliefs. But, beloved, it is peculiar that we have become the only people who have yet to recover from that horrific experience of chattel enslavement. But then again, such as you will, how many people other than Africans, how many people experience that dehumanizing system called chattel enslavement? Other than Africans, how many people? I don't know of any. It's like, beloved, chattel enslavement was a system that was particularly designed to capture the labor that African people represented to the Europeans desperately in need of labor power. And so, with their superior military force, They saw the solution to their problem. Conquer and enslave the African population, and just like that, the Europeans resolve their problem of lacking the labor power to bring their manifest destiny into reality. And this is where we are, beloved. Not at all understanding that we are still struggling to be free. We have a generation of good for nothing misleaders who will interpret their mission as being that of, well, appeasement and curry favor to them and those who hold the reins of colonization in their hands. And it is pretty much like the modern day plantation, where much of the subjugation, beloved, is mental. The physical enslavement, the shackle enslavement, has been abolished. The subjugation, the control that we are now fighting against is on a mental battlefield. And, beloved, it takes spine, it takes courage, it takes testicular fortitude to go up against the system that continues to control our lives. Because, as we pointed out, they continue to control our values, our principles, our beliefs. Lacking the education that we so desperately need, we fail to understand that adapting the values of our colonizers, adapting the principles of our colonizers, adapting the beliefs of our colonizers. Beloved, this is not progress. This is definitely not emancipation. And freedom cannot be found in the values of our oppressors. Our freedom can be found in the principles of our oppressors and certainly our beliefs cannot be found
He's the one complaining about the light, so I want to make sure you see them and come and
in
see
our oppressors. It is for us to have that comprehension that, beloved, yes, we were conquered, we were enslaved, and we continue to be colonized. That in itself tells you, beloved, that the battle is far from won, far, far from being won. We are still a colonized people who, well, a colonized people who refuse to accept the reality that we are, in fact, colonized. And so, we are unable to distinguish the humanities that we are, well, striving to achieve. Beloved, the conquest, the enslavement, the colonization, this is a process by which European nations have been able to, well, benefit from the, well, they're just benefiting from the conquest, the colonization, because we have been led to believe that our success must be in the image of our colonizers. Hard to believe, but that's the reality we live in with. The people who conquered us, the people who enslaved us, the people who colonized us. Beloved, these are the people we are trying to imitate. We are making every effort to adapt their values, to adapt their principles, to adapt their beliefs. Because while our ancestors conquered and emancipated us from the binds, the bounds, the yoke of suppression. Beloved, it never amounted to educating us to the reality that we were deprived of our humanities, so that, beloved, we don't find ourselves struggling for freedom. No, we are struggling to be the image of them and those who conquered us, enslaved us, and continue to colonize us. Yes, beloved. One of the suffocating beliefs that we are holding on to is that we are inferior and they are superior. Now, mind you, none of us would verbalize that belief. Listen, Mario, you're crazy. What makes you think that I think I'm inferior and they're superior? What makes you think that I think like that? Well, beloved, I realize you would want to fight me down for accusing you, along with all the rest of us, accusing all of us of accepting our inferiority and their superiority. Let me say, you are not going to accept that definition at all. No way, no how. And that is one of the reasons that we have this continual struggle amongst each other. We interpret it as hating each other. We hate each other. But beloved, what we hate is the inferiority. But we can't define that. We simply cannot accept that, yes, we are inferior and they are superior. We can't accept that. And we would fight each other down as we have been for almost 200 years now. Ever since July 3rd, 1848, we fighting each other down. Because we refuse to accept that we have succumbed. We have given in, like give up. And beloved, it's everywhere to be seen that we are doing everything we can to become like them. Beloved, maybe it might be one of the reasons why I don't care to have television and social media and internet and all these kind of things because, beloved, it revolts my consciousness when I see people like, well, I hate to have to say it because you don't want to hear it. But the fact is, when I am confronted with what they call the first black president, Barack Obama, beloved, isn't this the confirmation of us believing that we are inferior and they are superior? The so-called black president wasn't president for the millions of African descendants struggling for mental emancipation. No. We celebrated President Barack Obama as the first black president because he represented the definition of how African descendants can so convincingly play the role of our conquerors, the role of our enslavers, the role of our colonizers. And beloved, is that what it was? Is that what it is? Because, yes, the first black president, Barack Obama, is now history. That's now past. We've put that behind us. But the reality is, it's still there. That, beloved, we don't want to be who we are, Africans by nature. We don't want to be that. Those are inferior people. We want to be defined in the image of our conquerors, in the image of them and those who enslaved us, in the image of them and those who continue to colonize us. And here we are, beloved. Less than 100,000 of us, less than 90,000 of us in this unincorporated territory of the Virgin Islands of the United States of America. Beloved, our colonizers reside in Washington, D.C., capital of the United States of America. Now, beloved, we have had, well, like you just said, we have had a president of the United States of America, and he fulfilled the role, as many would say, fulfilled the role better than a lot of white people before him. He was a better president than them. But mind you, the system is what conquered us. The system is what enslaved us. The system is what continued to colonize us. And whether it is a President Barack Obama or a Governor Albert Bryan Jr., they all stand for the same thing. And what is that, Mario? Well, the superiority of our conquerors, the superiority of our enslavers, and the superiority of them and those who continue to colonize us. Plain and simple, beloved. That's what we're doing, trying our best to acquire their values, to acquire their principles, to acquire their beliefs. Because we are inferior, we try our best to be like them. But hold straight, beloved. We got to take this break and we will be right back. We're back, beloved. And yes, indeed, we are making every effort to give ourselves a better comprehension, better understanding of who we are and what it is that we are striving to be. Because, well, like we said, we have no argument about being conquered. We agree, yeah. We will conquer. Mm. And we also agree, yes, we were enslaved, definitely enslaved, chattel enslavement, dehumanized, no argument. And similarly, most of us will agree that yes, we are colonized, continue to be colonized. There are those who would find reasons to argue that point, but the fact is that, beloved, we are the unincorporated territory of the Virgin Islands of the United States of America. You might say it's a territory as opposed to a colony, but hey, what is a distinction if there's no difference? And that is where we find ourselves. It's like, beloved, now that we can agree that we were conquered, now that we can agree that we were enslaved, and now that we can, at least the overwhelming majority of us, can agree that we've been colonized, well, let's go back to the introduction, the prologue, the first chapter, where we spoke of there being two kinds of knowledge. There's the science and there's the humanities. And so, beloved, you tell me, what is our aim? Do we have an aim? And hopefully a strategy to achieve that aim, that objective? The answer is no. And that's why I call them good for nothing misleaders. Because, beloved, if anything, whether it's the governor, the delegate to Congress, or it's the senators, they all take advantage of our ignorance as a people. And so they don't even attempt to offer an objective that will in any way upset the Manco cat. You've got to continue to appease our colonizers. And so anything that could be even remotely colonized as being independent thinking from our colonizers, that's problematic in itself. Mind you, I'm not talking about the territory wanting to or becoming independent. No, 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 no. I'm just simply talking about the independence of our consciousness, of our thinking. Do we entertain any thoughts at all of regaining humanities that are, well, of our own making, values that are appropriate to us, principles that are stepping stones to our being sustaining of our own efforts. And beloved, like we say, and you don't want to go there because when you speak of the humanities as belief, at some point you're going to ask yourself, well, wait a minute. Africans never had religion? Is that what you suggested? I said, beloved, I didn't suggest that. It's the humanities. Humanities include beliefs. And last time I checked, that's where you find religion. Now, beloved, wherever you find the origins of our people, and for the most part, our history will say, well, that's Asia, Africa, Europe. That was the old world. And you could attach values, principles, and beliefs to those people, whether they be Africans, Asians, or Europeans. And here's the point, beloved, that before Africans were conquered and enslaved, Africans had their own humanities. Africans had their own values. Africans had their own principles. Africans had their own beliefs. So, what happened? Well, is this what we've been talking about? that yes, after the conquest came the chattel enslavement. And the chattel enslavement is a system that literally destroys the humanity of the people, well, so enslaved. So that, beloved, I don't know how many generations, but certainly in a matter of generations, those enslaved people, chattel enslaved people, they would completely lose their humanity. And would lose all contact with the history that preceded the conquest. So that as the people who have now abolished physical slavery and struggling for mental emancipation, beloved, these people have no idea of who or what we were before being conquered. That was the purpose of chattel enslavement. To completely, totally deprive us of any humanity. Meaning we had no values, no principles, no beliefs. All we had is the desire to live. And our conquerors, our enslavers, our colonizers, they all took advantage of this. And to this day, through the misleadership of the good-for-nothings who are in charge of our daily lives. Beloved, we insist we are not inferior people. We are the equal of any people anywhere. That's what we will scream at the top of our voice. We are human beings and we are the equal of human beings anywhere. So then, how is it then that we have no values of our own? How is it that we have no principles of our own? How is it that we have no beliefs of our own? You tell me, because this is the point I continue to make. I don't know how successfully, but I continue to make it. That, beloved, even though we will fight to the last drop of our blood against each other, insisting that we are not an inferior people. The reality still remains that we are doing everything we possibly can to imitate the humanities of our conquerors, enslavers, colonizers. And this is why we use the example. Perfect example of our first black president, Barack Obama. Did he have any recognition whatsoever of what it is for African people to have values? From what his 8 years of presidency in the United States, from what this 8 years tell us, beloved, he clearly exemplifies just how perfectly descendants of Africa can actually imitate the humanities of those who conquered us, enslaved us, and continue to colonize us. So that, beloved, to this day, if one had to ask the question, well, he was the first black president, how would you rate him? Well, that's the point, beloved. Because any analysis of a black president of the United States is going to be based on what white European descendants made as a template for the presidency of the United States of America. And that starts with George Washington to where we are today, Donald Trump. And beloved, isn't that how we would define Barack Obama as president of the United States? Aren't we going to be comparing him to all of these presidents from George Washington to Donald Trump? There's absolutely nothing black, nothing African that comes in to the context of this rating or comparison of a black president. Because, beloved, of anything, Barack Obama would have been making every effort he possibly could to not be a president that could be defined as a descendant of Africa. No, he needed to be a president that could be defined in the same terms of those that go from George Washington to Donald Trump. All white, all European descendants. Absolutely nothing black, nothing African about it. And I do believe that Barack Obama did absolutely everything he possibly could to not be defined as a descendant of Africa. Mind you, that's what we say. We refuse to be defined as inferior and are in mortal combat with each other as to whether we are inferior or not. But the fact of the matter is, beloved, we can't be inferior unless somebody is our superior. Good afternoon.
Hey, good afternoon.
Thank you for your call. Welcome.
I couldn't disagree with you more about Barack Obama.
Doesn't I'm sorry.
Not to be.
Go ahead. No, I'm just simply saying it doesn't surprise me that you totally disagree with me.
So, and that he's no different than any of the other white presidents. I think you weren't quite paying attention. So the first thing is, he's black and his wife is black, his children are black. He brought his mother-in-law with him to the White House who was black. So that in itself is different than all the other presidents that are there.
Okay.
America got to see a black family, a good, successful black family for 8 years. And a black family that was in better shape than most of the white families that were there.
All right. So one minute here, 1 minute. Could I, impose upon you to just hold on for a minute because I've got to take the top of the hour break. But I want to get into this conversation with you.
Right.
Will you hold on?
Yeah, I'll hold on.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So they've been We're back. Let me see if we could find our caller. Hello there.
Hello. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Go ahead, I'm listening.
So I was saying he had a black family, black children, black wife, black mother-in-law who came with them to the White House to help raise the black children. So America got to see, as for most Americans, this was probably the closest look that they have ever had to a black family. And also, black people saw a successful, working black family, grandmother and all. Then then he was brought from Kenya. During the first year, we heard and saw relatives is from Kenya. And then throughout these 8 years, Kenya got a lot of things, connections and aid from the U.S. So Kenya benefited. An African country developed during that period of time. He also, at the beginning, he came from Chicago. He was a community activist. And his minister, he went to a black church, a major black church, and we heard from his black minister. Unfortunately, his black minister was a little bit too radical for a president. Presidents of all races have to walk a tightrope. They can't be too much to the right, can't be too much to the left, because they are president for the whole country. And his black minister was a bit radical. He was definitely not a centrist. So but in any case, we had a president that played basketball. Basketball is a black sport, which, it's a sport of all races, but it has a lot of black people in it. And which president you could say played basketball while they're in the White House, that brought this sport to a more prominent position? He could not be the first. He could not be radical. He could not be. He had to ease things in. He tried pushing things in the beginning, but he just got that the U.S. was not ready for it. And when it comes to racial things, you got to take baby steps. The same thing in sports. Wilt Chamberlain was one of the first black people in basketball, and he had to walk that same time. It's not blacks are not a predominant; they're a minority. Whites are the majority, and so when the blacks are introduced into anything, business, sports, whatever, they have to walk this time when they cannot be too radical. They were saying the same thing with what's his name, the baseball player. When he was chosen was that he was a mild-mannered kind of a person.
Jackie Robinson.
Yes. They were saying that that's one of the reasons he was one of the first. And you look at it in all areas, the first, you can't come in there with your fist up, and all pro-black. Whites, the majority are going to get scared because most of them think that black people are just waiting for their chance to get back at them for slavery, because that's what white people do. They don't really seem to realize that most black people are not like that. You have your few, but the vast majority are not like that. And so, but they don't think that way. So they're thinking that we're just waiting for the opportunity to get back at them. So when you start bringing blacks into any new area, they cannot be radical. The whites are going to get defensive and put an end to them, one way or the other. So to be a successful black president, he pushed the limits as far as the whites were going to allow him to push the limits. Even as a Democrat, they like when their presidents go be like Ronald Reagan and become a cowboy and do the things that like what Trump is doing. A Democratic president, if they start down that route, their Democratic base will be against it. Barack will push the limit in that sense too. That's why he killed Osama bin Laden. That was about as much as what Democrats would allow because Osama killed a whole bunch of people. And so as a Democrat, he also had to pull back. He could not go cowboy on us. So there's some, realities of life that, we're going to run into. And no president, for us, maybe the fifth one could be more radical, be more like what you want. But definitely not the first. And I don't even think the second could pull it off. Maybe going out third, fourth, when now America has gotten used to it, realize that the black president isn't going to look to get revenge on them for slavery, then maybe you can start having somebody more along the lines of what you're looking for. But not in the first two. I don't even think maybe the third one. Maybe.
All right. Well, I don't know just what that description might be when you speak of what I'm looking for, the first, the second, and third. But put that aside, and let me just try to respond to you because, again, hey, you can articulate your position to make me seem like sophomoric, as I try to respond. But here it is.
I don't think so. You managed it that way, but I think you do a very good job at holding up your head.
Well, you're very kind. We thank you. But let me try. Now, I have been trying to explain my understanding of knowledge. And I tried to give my beloved audience my best understanding of the two kinds, which is the scientific and the humanity. Now, I think that what I was trying to say is that because of our history, which is one of conquest, enslavement, and colonization, we have no concept of who or what we were before we were conquered. And so we are now left to try to, I guess, find some mental liberation from the suppression that vacuum, more of a vortex of ignorance that is upon us in this chattel enslavement that just totally deprived us of any humanity. And so that here we are now, post July 3rd, because I'm looking at this from the perspective of us here in this tiny little unincorporated territory of less than 90,000 people. But since July 3rd, 1848, here we are trying to what we understand as to be our mental emancipation. But as I said already, because we have no concept of the loss of humanity, our mental emancipation is framed in terms of that of those who conquered us, those who enslaved us, those who continue to colonize us. And so, therefore, that's why, and this is how I try to exemplify the aura that the first Black president presented to us, because we are very much into being able to convince our, well, colonizers, who were our colonizers, who were our conquerors and our enslavers. We are trying our best to let them to understand that, hey, we are not inferior. We are your equal, and we are as good as you are. What we not understanding is that's just it. They are who they are, and we are supposed to be who we are. But we have no comprehension of who we are. We have no values. We have no principles. We have no beliefs. They were all taken from us through the process of a conquest, enslavement, and continued colonization. So this is all that we can do, is to show our conquerors that, hey, we can be as good as you are in conquering, enslaving, and colonizing our very own people and the world. Because this is where we are now with Donald Trump. That's not so people. It's the world. We are the superior beings, and everybody has to follow in their footsteps. And so, when it comes to the humanities, it is not a matter of because my complexion is dark, you know, my nose is wider than yours, my lips are thicker than yours, or whatever, I might be more athletic than you are. And yes, I have a Tim Duncan who could play basketball, like, hey, a white boy would only wish that he could, but here we are. What are our values, our principles, our beliefs? And this is what I'm saying. Point. This is. I'm almost finished right here now. I'm gonna.
Okay.
Yeah. Just finish up by saying the point is just that I'm saying is that, hey, we are entitled to be ourselves, but we first will have to learn that there is such a thing, because we have no concept of who our forebears were before they were conquered, enslaved, and now colonized. And so that what we're doing is trying our best, and successfully, and as you pointed out so, uh, exquisitely, is that the Obama family, and is, but again, but they have no humanities. They just simply, uh, black examples of the white conquest that deprive us of our humanities. And so that we are a people without humanities now. And I, that's the point I wanted to make.
Agree. I would partially agree. And
well, I made a little progress. I made a little progress, and then you partially hear me. Oh, congratulate Mario.
So yes, I think it's more of late that we have not worked on our humanities, but I think there was a major time where there was work on being black. I mean, you had black society, you had black culture that was different to white culture. There still is, but not as much. You had poets like Maya Angelou, who is not like a white poet. You had the 60s, I guess, in New York, the Harlem Renaissance. You had black music that's not like white music. And you could link it back to Africa. So I think
I know, but those are
was
simply
seen.
indicative of
Okay,
what could be, but we can't
I'm not
be.
catching that.
I says what you pointed out are all those things that are indicative of what could
Okay,
be if
right.
we could ever assume an identity of our own. And this is nothing
Yeah,
about hostility, violence, or anything like simply like that, but just simply that that's what humanities are. All people are
right.
different, and because of the circumstances, you come up in the cold, I come up in the warm. Just that alone, makes us to have distinctly different consciousness. And all I'm saying is that, hey, we are a different people. And that, hey, well, I've read enough to know, what took place before Ashurbanipal and Cambyses, turned Egypt into a Semitic populated country. It was African, and it goes all the way back to the mountains of the moon. And we could find out how it is that even how learn how to measure time, how to write, how to read, it all came out of ancient Egypt. And
Yeah.
all we
So
have
I
we
think,
said, but again, that's a different argument. We're not making this today. But I'm just
yeah,
trying
I
to
think,
make the point that we have an identity of our own that we should be striving for, but it's just simply not going to happen. You said not the first presidency, not the second, the third. Well, I was speaking of generations. Is I don't know what
right.
generation will be able to realize that, yeah, we were somebody
Well,
before slavery. We were somebody
I
before
think,
we were conquered.
I think the internet is what stopped our progress in that. And tell you the truth, if you probably if you talk to white people, or in fact if you listen to white people, they complain about the same thing about their culture, that the young people merging,
Yes,
and
yes,
so
yes, yes,
you
yes,
know, so they're complaining about the same thing.
yes,
And so I think you're having that emergence of cultures that is happening because of the internet. People
yes,
are exposed, and so
yes.
now you're not having a white population, you're not having a black
Right.
population.
I wish
Cultures
I
are
could. I wish I could take you home so some of my grandchildren could hear. Good reasons why I don't have a TV, why I don't have a social media, why I have all of these
yeah.
books. you know. But
Yeah,
yes,
that
you yes,
definitely I see that happening, and because I said it was the '60s, even into the '70s, you saw a distinct black culture that was linked to Africa. You could see where the things were coming out of
yeah,
the African.
yeah,
They said, but by the '80s, definitely the '90s, it was easing off, and you could start to see this blend. You walk around and you see you would have what kids listening to rap and listening to dance hall
right, yeah,
and
yeah.
and so you start to see a merging of cultures, and so I don't think you. So my guess is if you talk to some white people, you would hear this very same complaint that you have,
Well,
and I think it's the internet is my guess.
well, again,
Um,
and maybe you're right. I don't know. The cause of it. I can only speak to the fact that it is have an identity of its own, and that it is, what our mental emancipation should be all about. Understanding that yes, we had a history before we were conquered. And I just leave it at that
right,
the point there that says, because usually I can't get much further than that because people can't believe, and then we get into the pyramids and whether a different race of people came and all of that. And I say, okay, okay, all right, okay, all right. I leave it there. I'll
right,
just say, I just want you to accept that before we were a conquered people, we had a history.
Right.
And, you know, and
Yeah,
maybe it might
I
take,
totally agree with you that we should be, as a people, uh, making these decisions for ourselves. You know, what are our principles, what are our values, and where do we see us moving as a people?
well,
And
well that's
and
well,
not
they,
take
now you could
about
better understand my critique of the Obama.
right,
That's nothing personally about him, and I said
yeah, I
he's
definitely
a
understand.
brilliant
But
man,
yeah,
and
we
his
have to,
family and everything. I love him to death. But again,
yeah,
his ignorance about our history, you know, is problematic to me.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
And that's
yeah,
that's what it's about. That's what
and
it's
also
about. Is that
and
again?
also
Yeah,
also you have to realize too with Obama that he wasn't raised by
I,
his father. His father's family.
I've read his
So
books. I've read everything that
right.
he's with, and yes, I'm very familiar. Well, I'm a
Oh,
reader. I'm a reader,
right.
and you know, and I
I
read about
know, I know some
about
people
his
who
father,
so
and you know the Kenya side of it. I've read. Yes, I am very familiar, and I have all respect for the man. And this is not at
right,
all
right.
about disrespecting Obama at all. This is no,
Yeah, yeah,
you
yeah,
know,
I know. Yeah, yeah, I know. But yeah, but it's so I think he did as much as he could, and then I don't know if that was a role for a president in a minority president in a majority being president for the whole country. I think this is a role that we need to take. His minister needs to take.
all right,
That people in the community need to take.
all right,
That I think what the fight that he fought was a different type of a fight, and you need different people for different fights.
agree,
You
agree,
know,
agree.
yeah.
Right, but again, so hey, so you don't totally disagree with Mario.
No, 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 not at all, not at
There
all,
you go.
not at all.
Make me feel like I accomplished something, and I could go and tell my grandkids and say, listen, I had a very clever, very smart, very intelligent man. They said, you know, that he has some agreement with some of the things that I say.
I would say the majority of the things I would say is the majority. There's some slight disagreement, but the majority, I agree.
You made
All
my
right,
day.
so thanks.
Thank you,
Yeah,
thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. And hey, I didn't think it would end like this. When I first recognized your voice, and I was, oh, and then you said, I totally agree with you, Barack Obama. I said, he's he's gonna make mincemeat out of me today because I can't rise to his level of articulation. But hey, it was good. And I hope my beloved audience benefited from it because that's what it's all about to me. That, I help them and those who are listening to comprehend something and maybe do a little research on their own and, help their own cause.
right, right. All right,
Well,
so
be
thanks.
well. Thank you so much. Thank you so very much. All right.
Okay, bye.
Well, beloved, you heard it for yourself. Again, it's not about war. It's definitely not about violence, and it's not about inferior versus superior or superior versus inferior. None of those things. It is simply understanding how history has unfolded from, well, 300,000 years ago to today. And I said 300,000 because that's generally the time period we give when we finally came up with the human beings that we know today, Homo sapiens, you know. And again, it is noteworthy that we can have these discussions And don't have to fight as to whether you are superior to me, I'm inferior to you, and this and that. Hey, don't have to be. We can break bread, sit at the table, and uh, share our thoughts without uh, without confrontation. But beloved, hold string. We are going to take our break, and we will be right back with some more. We're back, beloved. And I think we got a caller being patient. So why don't we go to the door and invite them in? Good afternoon.
Yes, Mr. Morris.
I thank you so much for your call. And let me welcome you.
Okay. Where to begin? I guess I
Take your time, man. Take your time. I ain't going nowhere. I am here for you. So you could,
okay. Yes, I know you're doing it. I know you're doing it, but you mentioned, I guess, at the beginning, I guess humanity being local and then knowledge, I guess, scientific or logical knowledge being universal, that one and then you mentioned one plus one and one is two. I don't believe all the human beings live those distinct qualification or recognition as we modern applying it to them. I don't think it was so. I think you're making distinction between principles, values, and belief and needs as separate categories. I don't think in ancient or primitive or early growth of human beings, those would necessarily categorize. No. I think all overlap, all is intertwined. So I don't really buy into that modern day use of science and humanity
And that kind of, no, I don't buy into that. For instance, like myth, you mentioned like belief, and you put belief, it seems like you put belief differently from principle because that's what you're basically explaining there. Like, and I don't think it is necessarily so. Well, let me ask you this here. Let me show you the universal principle. You have in Europe Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. You have in Egypt Osiris and the Seven Hathors. You have in Islam the seven sleepers and the gods. You have in South America a mountain with seven caves. How is that situation basically similar if there wasn't a unity at a symbolic? Because I believe things and objects precede letters. There was a unity before things was letters or before an alphabet of letters developed. How was it you could find in Egypt and South Africa the death and the resurrection of a being, especially second crystallized in Osiris and other heap of solar imagery of that phenomenon. You could find it in Europe, you could find it in India, you could find it in South America. How is that possible? Is it there was one beginning or these developed independently?
Yes, I'm listening. No, I was listening. I didn't realize that was a question for me.
Well, I mean, because you're saying that you just the two is everybody saying that if you from a sunny or hot climate and a one from a cold climate, that necessarily will produce different culture, a different humanity.
Well, all I was trying to do by that, and it was an oversimplification, just trying to say that the circumstances that we were born in and grew up determine a lot of our consciousness. And so that depending on where you might have been born and grew up, and where I might have been born and grew up, because there were different climates, for instance, that in itself, could give us a difference in consciousness. And that's an oversimplification, but I'm just trying to point out that just the circumstances under which somebody was born and grew up, has an impact on their consciousness. And that's why that was what.
I heard that I know it's just basically saying that every people, every race have a different humanity has a different set of using what principles,
Right.
values, beliefs,
Right. And I was just pointing out that climate is just one of the things that condition, our consciousness.
Climate does not change our factors in human. And that I believe within human beings there's a set of impulses, a set of I guess human traits that will permeate whether African, Asian, European, that will you may have different fauna, different flora, but it will manifest itself.
Yeah.
You went on, you use the analogy with in terms of logic, you use a base for logic. 1 and 1 is 2.
No, not logic. Science. There's a difference between logic and science. I'm saying that what is science is something that wherever you are, it can be proven again and again and again. And I oversimplified it by just using 1 plus 1 is 2. But again, that's the science of it. That wherever you are, whoever you might be, the science applies to you in the same way. Just like you throw something up in the air, you know, the science of gravity it's going to come back down.
yes, but all the human society, we show that they reach on that level, that kind of scientific nicety,
Again,
exactness.
I am not suggesting that. I am just looking at how we are analyzing, investigating, and understanding the history that came before us. And all I'm going to do is give my beloved audience some tools with which to better analyze, you know, how we get to where we are today. And one of the things that we're talking about is just that saying that, like, hey, you know, when we're talking now about physical enslavement as opposed to mental enslavement, we have to recognize
Uh,
that there is such a thing as circumstances determining
should I want to answer, should I want, you're talking of what kind of sentence?
circumstances.
So, oh,
Circumstances, yes. In other words, if I grew up as a slave, as opposed to you growing up as the child of a billionaire, you know, in a house that you had five servants, you know, just to sit to you. These are different circumstances and they have different impact on the consciousness of the individual. And that's this basic what I'm saying. And like, hey, it's at the point where we have to recognize that as a people, we had a history before we were conquered.
well,
And it's a, that's an oversimple.
I wouldn't agree with her because Islam penetrated before the European Christianity. Islam was in Africa,
Yeah,
and that influence had basically diluted and mingled with the native beliefs. You had Mali, you had the Ghana Empire, you had Shanghai, you had influence of Islam within those kingdoms. And throughout Africa, I read enough to know
yeah.
that certain people came here, they had Islamic beliefs.
Yes, yes.
That dilution and that intermingling of different culture and belief or all the humanity, if you want to use that term, right? That was just taking place. So when you say, well, before we were conquered, I was thinking before, well, what does it mean? I mean, that penetrated already, that mingling of belief. A matter of
No,
fact,
well, again, but if you want to be historically correct, you know, again, Islam don't come into the picture before the seventh century of the current era. You know, so
Islam what?
Islam
Uh-huh.
doesn't come into the picture until the seventh century of the current era.
600 plus years, 600 plus years.
Right. So that all right, so that if you just look at that and go back, matter of fact, you will go back to the seventh century before the current era. This is when now the Ashurbanipal, you know, successfully invaded uh, Egypt. So so you
I listened to you say that, but when you just mentioned it with Ton in Egypt, Semitic. What do you mean when you use the word Semitic during that time? What do you using Semitic as the word is used in modern day reference to Semitic as they change it from the Arab people? So how do you using that term?
you know using that term to refer to people from what we call now today the Middle East, what used to used to call it Western Asia. Uh, but yes, uh, you know,
But
that,
do you use it as what racial or cultural or a heritage? How you because you're using terms and I think they are not legally justifiable because
well, again, well,
Semitic answer includes people that you consider African in looks and features.
well, again,
Are you aware of that?
yes, I am. That's why I'm the closest. I mean, again, I do read too, and there was a lot of interchange just between what is today Somalia and what is it, Yemen, across what would you call it, the Red Sea, and there was,
Arabia.
thank you, and there was a lot of changes, even, I mean, much of the mythical stories of some people call it the history of Solomon and Sheba and all of these kind of all of that. But all I am trying to say, and this is why I yield with you in terms of the Semitic. All right, I won't use the word Semitic, but I would say, in terms of the different population, the change in the population from being, black African. That is what we're talking about.
And Mr. Mohammed, I the qualities in your I like you reading. I think that I will say that million time and I never tired of saying it because I think that is from just how modern day knowledge is the true book.
Yeah.
Reading and basically that's verifiable and that's scientific. And I commend you for some of your conclusions without you respect my elder, because you're the elder to me. And I want to be, but in terms of defense of logically and read and drawing conclusion, I would question some of your conclusions, but I could understand because I also heard you had a horrific experience. And without this, I believe that they kind of reflected in your mental makeup. But I can't take away the quality of your discipline in a modern time where you have different diversions to distract you from that kind of dedication because to dedicate oneself to learning and just avoiding these different distractions and just I find that very highly but all of that being said, like I said, the conclusion I question not the conclusion.
Well, again, I am in no way, trying to pass on to my beloved audience that I know it all. I am trying to stimulate discussion, stimulate, inquiry, and it stimulate the curiosity of my beloved audience to learn more about ourselves. Well, and this is why I commend you because again, I respect you, and I listen when you speak because again, this is the reason why I do what I do when I'm on this platform on the radio because I'm trying to stimulate discussion. I'm trying to stimulate your curiosity.
Yeah, but some of your discussion, them is basically factualized belief. I mean, them is not just but them is thing that you basically you will carry to your grave, and I would disagree, but I will respectfully disagree. I won't make it an issue that it could drive a sever between or wedge between you and I will never try to that, but I know you believe, but for instance, you just talking to me and the previous caller, when we speak of African, we use diaspora sentiment and construct and we reinforce it and the African never see themselves as no monolithic racial type. I mean, just in Ethiopia, you had and language. It's only when the first unify those groups of ethnicity and culture and language into a national identity. That's a recent phenomenon. I mean, so when we take our experience in the West, with and trying to impose it, I will question that.
Well, fine, but again, uh, let me just point out to you
Yeah.
that many of the things that you reference, sometimes you're not you're not regarding the contradiction in history that you're making. Like, for instance, when you speak here of Menelik and Israel, these are things that would have happened, you know, subsequent. Hear me good. Subsequent meaning after Ashurbanipal successfully invaded Africa. Previous to this, where would you find found Menelik? Where would you have found Ethiopia? Previous to the Ashurbanipal that I keep pointing to, when Africa and Egypt was one and the same, people who look like you and I. And all I'm saying to you is
But
again,
they never view it. They could have looked. I they could have looked a lot racial alike, but once they would had different cultural traits and expression, they are see themselves as different people.
yes, but and I'm saying to you, but look at the time period. All right, just like we said this, when we talk about Islam, you got to talk about the 7th century forward, the 7th century of the Common Era.
Uh-huh.
But no, when I speak it about Ashurbanipal, not to mention Cambyses, we're talking about before the Common Era. And I'm saying to you, try to tell me about the history before Ashurbanipal. And you will come to realize that these people that you're talking about are all after Ashurbanipal successfully invaded Egypt.
And this is where I disagree with you and others. You say that
Okay?
I think I heard you say that if Asabanakal and Kambati that the Egyptian would use the word like Exodus is when that foreign element came in and then the people poured down into the south and into lower Africa and then from there they developed like Mali, Ghana and those other I get cultures that they're using a chemical flowers during the probably the 13th, probably the 12th century to probably the 14th century. That's what you kind of talking about. But the Egyptian record are going to tell you differently with this place called PUNT point or PUT.
Yeah, yeah.
And they were basically trading and doing business with them. So who was that people that they were doing business with? And there's culture in
Yeah.
the Saharan region before that area became desert where there was fauna and flora and the
Right.
aqua.
Before the last ice age. This is at the ending of the last ice age that the Sahara Desert developed.
Okay, okay. But some people left behind their artwork with animals that no longer that reside in that area. So they were speaking, although or testimony or witness to an environment and a situation that existed to today. So my thing is that the culture, the ideas, they and Haiti as the minority are not solid went into Egypt and they became more matured and solid and crystallized in Egypt. But as we
Check out that Diop. Diop.
I have one in his book, and he has some illustrations with a situation in a cave in Europe and one in South Africa with artwork, and it's the same basically illustration with animal plus human imagery. With some of them call it a warlock or a wizard, and this is before what you would call it, I guess, you call it like, what period, the old period, little age of probably about 100, about probably 100,000 BC to about, what, because you divide it into three categories. You have the upper, the lower, and the middle. And during that period there, I mean the artwork and so I mean I certain things Mr. I just when I read them I just try to understand them and that I wouldn't look at the African how we look at it. I wouldn't take our mother the idea and go back there and try to make a like what we doing and I if you constantly thinking about it like with awesome because you have the excuse right over other whether it was a outside element combined with the local element and overrun the delta region and set up certain situation in there. You have certain images of the pharaoh. Some of them look with some of features like with Chinese, with other than the African features. I mean, that is also was noted by the Egyptologists. But I don't get off now and we think some of the things that are always said and then come back and put them forward to you and
Okay.
see what you respond to because
Well,
I say hard, but I
but
don't want to.
you don't seem to realize that I learned from you just like I learned from the color before you and but beloved audience in general. And that's what I try to do is to stimulate your curiosity, and more than anything else, to stimulate your consciousness to see how much you have been thinking about these subjects. And so that I am here as a, I grant you, I am making, I hope to make 87 in a few months. So I'm a lot older than most of the people in my beloved audience. But nonetheless, I'm still a student. I'm still learning. And I'm still curious to learn more.
And like you and I, basically, it's second hand, not second, third hand, and fourth hand that you're dealing with, and you can't go bless. And I, say, for instance, like when you make the produce the history, I don't think the history behind the it's like the history scientific how we look at history. I mean, with all the with Egypt, I don't believe Egyptian saw Osiris torn into 14 pieces, put together, and then resurrected alive. So that is a part of their history.
The
I think,
mythology, the mythology.
but they don't make a distinction. They don't make a distinction between mythology and history.
Some do, but most don't.
Oh, I could go into Ethiopia. I could go into most of those ancient nations and their beginning is well. And when I use the word mythology, I don't use the word mythology in like the definition that even was unscientific, unverifiable, imaginary. I think human beings saw certain phenomenon, certain events, and they use certain representation of ideas, thoughts, etc. I think their language was stiff, and being stiff, one object had lent itself to several meanings, and I think for me, I want to go through if I get something, but I take it too much time, but I don't get that, and like I say, we take something that I already went through, and just probably put them family, them and come back together, and then present them to you and see what you think of it.
Well, we are here for you. We are here for you. And again, I am just trying for us all to get a better understanding of ourselves and where we who we stand.
Something that you put forward, them is solid a part of your belief system. So, but anyway, do that as it may. But I am somewhere.
Okay, all right, take care. Then we talk again.
All
All right, you go away. Yes, beloved, and that is the situation as it stands. And beloved, I don't know a more understandable, a more simple explanation for what we are trying to penetrate. And that is plain and simple that, beloved, we do have an attempt to, well, I think we got a card here. Good afternoon.
Yeah, let me get to this.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mario.
Thank you for your call and welcome.
Yes, I'm listening. We're going back and forth with history. I have a question for you. A couple things.
Okay, good.
When Obama was in power, because you were talking to the guy and he was talking about Obama.
Yeah.
What did you expect? What were you looking for Obama to do?
And you asking me, and I was what I Mario was expecting of Obama.
What you expected him to do?
All right. Well, again, I did not expect anything different to what unfolded. And the reason why is because of the things I've been saying here, which is that, like, for instance, as brilliant as Barack Obama is, and as much as I respect him, I could see clearly that he doesn't have any understanding of who we, as descendants of Africa, who we were before we were conquered. And that's where the problem comes in here, that I did not expect anything other than him, well, indicating to us, to white people, to whosoever, that he could be as effective as any white person in running the United States of America.
Oh, but let me ask you definitely. Okay, you didn't expect nothing from him.
No.
But the question is this here. What it is you are looking for?
I am looking for somebody like you who would ask questions and who would want to know, well, is there any substantive difference between European people and African people? And this is why I've had this, well, it's been over a month and a half whenever I'm sitting for my sister talking about this matter about humanities, and which is that, yes, every people have their own humanities, and that therefore, before we were conquered, we had humanities of our own. We had values of our own. We had principles of our own. We had beliefs of our own. But I didn't expect these, to come out of the mouth of Barack Obama, because he is like, well, all of us, we are products of that conquest, of that enslavement, and of the colonialism. So that what we know is what we learn from white people. And all I expected is what I saw, that Barack Obama as president would be able to clearly show to one and all that he could be as effective as president of the United States of America as anyone from George Washington to, well, to up to his time. I won't include Trump because Trump come after Obama, but it was from the first one up to when Barack Obama became president, that he would show to everyone that he was as capable as any one of them. And that he proved. And so that, yes, that's what I expected, and that's what I saw.
Mr. Morehead, the man made a statement to you, and I agree with him. His father got his mother pregnant. He walked off. The mother raised him. You like to say we are product of our society, our upbringing, people who were wrong. If the man is not here to put his input in, what else is going to be putting into the young man?
Again, you're assuming that the father had a more righteous consciousness. And I say, no.
I'm not, Mary, hold on. I'm not assuming anything enough.
Well,
what is being told, the father didn't stick around.
Right.
Just like we have a lot of parents today, the father is not around.
Yes.
The only person now is running the household and trying to mold those children is the woman.
Yes.
Sometimes it's too much for them.
Yes.
It's like we asking women to be men.
Yes.
And here is it now, he coming up in a house where is his mother raising him.
Yes.
A white woman.
Yes.
Where a black father left.
Yes.
I am trying to figure out, when we say white and black, how much so different is a white person from a black person, only to say the prejudices that they hold. They bleed just like us. They want good for their children, but they don't have the humanity, as you say, do unto others as you would have them do unto you.
Well, there you are.
So the whole thing is not to say they don't know better. Sometimes to appease yourself. You know, sometimes we drive and we see people at the homeless. And we appease ourselves by thinking something stupid. Oh, they didn't do this, they don't do that.
Yeah.
But sometimes we ourselves is just one paycheck, one sickness from homelessness.
True.
And we many times don't have that empathy for those people. So we drive past them. You know something, when we get in it, it's a whole different story. I heard a lady told me she was working in the hospital. She's a nurse. She put out the injection in the band, she hit you one like big deal. When she got sick and she went in now, it was a big deal for her to take the injection that she accustomed to give.
Yeah.
It's always easy to do something to somebody else. It is very difficult to do it to yourself. And my thing is this: my thing with this black and white, the Chinese where it is. At the end of the day, what is the progress? At the end of the day, what is the coming together? My thing is this here: if you're the black man and you're a scam, you're a scam. If you're the white man and you're a scam, you're a scam. The Chinese man is a scam, you're a scam. Who wants any scam around them?
And I'm agreeing with everything that you're saying.
So when we keep on hearing the talk about this and go back, there we go. The Egyptian was capturing people. The white man was capturing people. The Muslim was capturing people. But at the end of the day, we are here today. What is this we are looking to see happen among, let's start from our area. Our black men. Our young black women. What is this we are looking for? That's what I want to hear. Not we going back and forth and men and this and what are we looking for and what can we put in place to help our young people? Mario say 87, you're going after, you're dropping off the tree just now. But
Well,
the young people are going to be here. What are we leaving them?
all right. Well, again, I don't have the answer to every question. You know, hopefully I could give you some answers that probably would, stimulate your curiosity and cause you to do a little more investigation on your own, and maybe come back and teach me something, But the point is,
Mario, hold a minute. I love solution. I
yes,
don't want to hear you keep coming saying the car is broken, the car is broken. If the car is broken, let's identify where it is broken.
ma'am.
And if it's the transmission, let's get somebody to fix the transmission. If it's the engine, let's get somebody to fix the engine. If the electric, but let's diagnose what's the problem and get on the fixing part. But Mario, for all these years, I have listened to you here talking about this ain't good, this ain't good. The senators, this ain't good, this ain't good. And here is it, we are still like we at square one when we come to the table, still talking about the things that are broken, but never trying to put anything in place to fix it. That's what my thing is.
Well, again, what you're telling me is you have listened to me, but you haven't read me. I mean, I also, write, and I write a lot too, and I have a lot of solutions in my writing, including solutions for this place that we call the unincorporated territory of the President of the United States. But let me try to answer directly to you. You're right. Let me try that. I am trying to get us all to understand that we had a history before we were conquered. Now, this is not anything about black and white, who is good, who is bad, who is right, who is wrong, who is wrong. It is about the history. And the history is that, Europeans were able to conquer Africans. Europeans were able to enslave Africans. Europeans were able to colonize the descendants of enslaved Africans, like we are today. We are, colonized people, and we are descendants of Africans that had been enslaved. Now, what I am trying to promote is for us to understand that before we were conquered, we had values, principles, and beliefs of our own. Like people are throughout this world, wherever you go in the world, they have their way of life. Everybody have their own way of living.
I want you to tell me what kind of values we had then that we don't have now, please.
Well, we did not have the values of conquering other people to take from them what we want, which is something that is called imperialism. That is what Europeans did. And hey, they actually, conquered Africa because they valued militarism. Their way of life spoke of the survival of the fittest. Our values were for agricultural production. We would be more into training monkeys to pick fruit for us because this was the land that we live in. It was sedentary, it was fertile soil. Whereas in the cold, you did not have that advantage. And I'm just answering in terms of the values that you asked me of. And I'm not saying, and I'm not right, and I'm not trying to say that we had good values and these and our Europeans had bad values. No, I'm saying that they're different. Just like we came up in tropical warm climates, they came up in temperate and cold climates. That in itself gives you a different kind of consciousness. And so that all that I am asking is for our people to get educated, have the education to learn that we had a way of life before we were conquered. And it doesn't have anything to do with violence or who is better than who, because that is the European way of life. It is
So,
who could militarily conquer another. We did not. And
okay,
this is
I understand what you're saying now. Question I have now.
yes, okay.
You crossbreed me with a white man. Right. What we have is something different than what we had then. You want us to be educated. How much book you done write summary?
About 12.
I cannot read, Mario. How
Well,
much of your book you think I can read?
I don't know as much as you want to. I mean,
No,
this,
I'm giving you a scenario.
but it's just like it take me one word at a time, one sentence at a time, one paragraph, one page at a time. It takes time.
Yes,
It takes
so
a
what
discipline to do that.
we need certain tools. Isn't that so?
That's correct.
All right. We are where we are right now.
Yeah,
We living in America. America gone cause war.
yeah.
We have an American passport. If somebody decide to take it out on us to say, "Ah, but you're American," because if you notice, when they fire bombs, the bombs don't have no eyes. Wherever he lands, whoever is there getting damaged.
That's correct.
We in this little country here now.
Yeah.
We elect people to run our country. So many of them will run. They say, do unto others that you have them do. They thief this, they thief that, and they're friend, and they wash one another hand.
Yeah.
And the poor man, he struggles. You have our young women, they getting up, the hormones kicking the young man. What end up happening? They get the woman pregnant, she go her way, he go his way. We have a society of people who have two parents, but one bearing the burden. The question I'm asking, what do we do to try and bridge the gap to stop it? Whether it is my son, your daughter, my daughter, what do we put in place to stop this from spiraling out of total control?
We do.
Because all we keep on saying, we're talking about it, we're seeing it, we're talking about the school system, we're talking about the government system, we talk about WAPA. All what we do, we talk. What is ever put in, and we are a black country. It's black people run the place. But what end up happening? We seem to be suffering like crazy. So my question is, what do we do? You said changing people.
I'm trying to answer. I'm trying to
Okay,
answer.
this is last thing, and I'm giving you the answer. We put people in
Well,
place, and we get the same results.
Okay,
Tell
hold
me,
straight,
man.
hold straight in
I
a
listen.
second. Hold straight. All right,
I listen.
good. We are now living under the values, the principles, the way of life of European people. They are the ones who successfully invaded and conquered. And we are now living according to the values and principles of those same European people. Now, all I am trying to say to you is that the fact is we don't recognize that that is what is happening. Our education system is all designed by the very same people who conquered us, enslaved us, and now colonize us. And they are not allowing us the opportunity to understand that we can, in fact, learn to be a different people than what they want to make us to be. because we don't have that opportunity.
One more question I have.
Yes.
The English system have a way of learning, and when we see the book, we call the letters and we call the words. That's reading. And if I can read for myself, and I think I should be able to think for myself. So not because you tell me the goat head is his butt, I supposed to accept that. I supposed to can learn for myself and say, Mario, that's a foolishness. You know that?
That's correct.
But if you do not give the man the tool to read, to comprehend, to check for himself, he's going to take what you say. You say we have the European system.
Yes.
If we change the European system, what is the system they put into place? And I want to know how it works.
Well, this is where the problem of the rubber meets the road, because anything that changes, anything that is different from the European way of things is problematic. And immediately you're going to get yourself in trouble because they don't want you to change.
What I'm trying to get to the nitty gritty of it. What it is, when we were going to change education,
yes,
from the European way, what would it look like? That's what I'm trying to understand.
It would, for one thing, it could look like what it was before we were conquered, but it doesn't have to be. All we need to do is to, just like you pointed out, to understand that we can do better. But what you are not allowing us to see is that to be able to try to do better, the European is going to be confrontational and it come with violence. And it's not going to allow for the change to take place.
I talking about education.
Yes, education. And I'm telling you, I have been in court, for years now, just trying to get education changed.
Well, listen to what I'm saying. You're trying to get Virgin Islands history into education.
Yes.
My thing is this: if you teach a man to read, and we have the internet, we have the books, he can apply himself and don't have to rely on others to get the information into him. If we send the man to the school and the man can't do it, what do you expect? If you're sending a man to a school for 12 years, I think that is the most important thing. The man's supposed to can read and count. And as long as he can read, he can take up any other book. We are in an age right now. You say you don't really subscribe to it, but we're in an age right now. You just can't spell the word, you type it in Google, Google give it the right spelling. If you want to know how to fix the car, you type it in YouTube and you know how to fix it. So the whole thing, we are a little further up, but if you don't give the person the tools to operate, regardless of what instrument they have, they can't perform. So I'm trying to figure out what you would do to the school system to bring our children up to speed. That's what I'm saying.
All right. Let me give you one example and see how you react to this.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Before we were conquered, we lived in a matriarchal system. And by matriarchal, I don't mean that woman rules. I don't mean that woman rules.
Mm-hmm.
But again, it's like, children had their mother's name. Children inherited from their mother's family. The European system is that when the child is born, even though the child coming out of the mother, the child must have the man's name. The child must have the father's inheritance, not the mother. That is a big difference there in how Europeans live to how Africans used to live before we were conquered. And now, this is just it. If you just try to make that change, the Europeans are going to confront you. For one thing, they're gonna in school they're gonna let you know, say, oh, so now you want women to be rulers. You want women to rule things. when plain out, matriarchy does not mean women rule. It means simply that the inheritance runs through the mother's family. It's the mother's family name that contains, not the man. And just that simple change, you know, is enough to bring war amongst us. And that is just giving you an example, of how difficult it is, because many of our own people have come to believe the European definition of matriarchy. So when you say that, well, our people used to live by matriarchy, and it is the woman's name that the child would inherit, you would say, what? Me and that was your son. 'Cause man have to be the king of the castle. Man have to run things, right? So man have to run this, man, that man. And so that, again, before you could even get to understand that there was a difference in the way Africans live and the way Europeans live. Before you could get to that, you got war, you got conflict, and they are superior because you are living under the colonization of the European.
I have a question there.
All right.
You have the matriarch, you have the man, okay?
Yeah.
What was the big difference when the woman was running the show and the man running the show? And another question.
Well, it wasn't the wars.
Does any one of those things still happen over in Africa where the woman is running the show?
No.
Huh?
The bits and fragments of it is the best you could have. There's some places where you could find, bits and traces of it. That's what's that. But the point is that, again, for over 20,000 years, the African civilization, lived until, as I said to the earlier call, I say, Ashurbanipal and Cambyses was successful in invading Egypt. But there has never been a society that lived that long. Nowadays, if a society survives for a couple hundred years, that's a big thing. And we're talking that African society survived for 20,000 years. The Egyptian priest Manito will tell you from the 17th century BCE, we had a civilization. And these are things I read and I could show you in the books.
I agree we had a civilization. When people come, as you say, when people go in and conquer, they disrupt the civilization.
Thank you.
I just say that has happened for years, thousands of years, years after years. The question is this here. We find ourselves, we were conquered. Now we get freedom. As you say, we need to get the mind free. But the whole thing about it and keep coming back, the people who are in place in our, let's say St. Croix, St. Thomas, St. John, who is in place to bring about that change, that conscious change you talk about. What do we do to change it? We're going to keep on saying the kids just feed the children.
We're doing like right here. Just the conversation you and I are having. Other people are listening. And they are doing no investigation.
Okay, I'm glad you said that. Listen to me. We're looking to have an election.
Yes.
A lot of people running.
Yes.
We say, pick the best. The people who know better. They say, I don't want to say nothing because I don't want to call nobody name. And then they grumble when the people get back in. If I know a car is not good, I say, Mario, don't waste your money buying the man the car now, because I'm telling you, he don't spend so much money in the car there. You go be spending money like crazy.
I wish it was that. I wish it was that. I wish it was that simple as you break it down. But it's not that simple. It's not that simple. You got to realize that the European way of life, is not going to be changed overnight because they are not going to allow change to come.
But Mario, that don't mean we don't try. We try. You're saying.
Well, this is what in this conversation we having. That's what we're doing. We're trying.
Yeah. But then if we don't know which one to stay away from, which ones to stay away
We have to learn.
is it listen, how much people they paying attention to election? They go and they vote because it's their friend.
Yeah.
They go and they vote because they have a agenda.
Yes.
They go and they vote because they have some fresh fries.
Yes.
But what you really is like saying taking medication. You see that alone there, that is going to clear you up anyway.
Yes.
You run away from the bitter adults
Yes.
and you go and drink the sweetie
Yes.
that don't fix you.
Yes.
But if the person was supposed to tell you, you see that sweetie stuff, it's not going to fix you.
Yeah.
You got to brave it and take that bitter one because that's going to turn things around. And if we just put the whole slate out there and have the adults and the sweetie medication, what people going to gravitate to is the sweetie medication.
I wish
Who says what?
I wish it was as black and white and as simple as you put it. But yes, I understand what you're saying, but it ain't that easy. It is not that easy.
Mario, is either I'm awake or I'm sleeping. I don't know where is the in between. It's
right.
either you're awake or you're sleeping.
All right.
All right, I'm starting with you.
Thank you, man. Thank you. Thank you.
I just want to bring out our best Mario. That's the whole thing.
Well, that's you and I on the same page right there. That's how we want to do. But it is a struggle. It is a struggle. We got to continue with it. Thank you.
Okay. Have a wonderful day.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah.
Already. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Welcome back. Good afternoon, man. Welcome.
Hey. So, what are you champion for us to return to our African way of life, or just to choose another way of life?
Neither one of those. Neither one. For us to clearly understand our history so that we could comprehend the historical baggage that we're carrying that is preventing us from moving forward. Again, I am not, any kind of prophet, any kind of anything here to recommend this way as opposed to that way. All I am recommending is that we find some love for self, and we do that by studying ourselves, studying our own history. And that is what the colonizer is preventing more than anything. They don't want us to understand our own history.
But don't we have problems that is going to prevent us from doing that? And if we solve those problems, wouldn't we already be on our way to doing that? That would at that point become a logical thing that needs to be done.
Again, I wish I could say yes, that's it. But again, what we're not accounting for is the fact that the people that were our conquerors, that were our enslavers, that are now our colonizers, they know very well it is in their interest to keep us divided against each other. They know very well that they cannot allow for an education system to thrive that allows us to understand our history and how we came to be who we are today. And so that we got to account for that. Because, go ahead.
But aren't we understanding a whole lot of stuff that is not being taught to us in the school? So it doesn't. So if it's not being done in the school, it doesn't seem like that's prevention. Because our children are learning all kinds of nonsense that is not taught in the schools, but it's being taught in the home by what their parents allow them to do while they're home, and they're at home more than they're in school.
Who educated their parents? who educated their parents.
Right. But we can as a community of people like you and others that know can educate their parents. We educate their parents into all kinds of stuff. The problem is that people like nonsense. You can easily get people to do nonsense than to do something that's sensible.
Well, there
And
you
like I
are.
said, if I took my underwear and wear it on my head during the day,
Yeah.
I'm sure at least I get 5 people to do the same thing. But
Mo-
if I try to get them to read a book, that I might get 1 or 2.
But there you are. Well, you're answering your own question, and
But
that is how we have been raised, and that is how you know the same people who conquered us, the same people who enslaved us, are the same people who are colonizing us now and making sure that we don't get a clear path to progress. They are making sure that we
so
stay
then
confused.
so then the battle is lost before it's even been
No,
waged, if that's the case.
if that was the case, we would never have made it to July 3rd, 1848. But we did it. Took 200 years, but we did it. And that's the same thing
Yeah.
that I could say now. It hasn't been 200 years since July 3rd, but we are struggling, just like we are right now on this platform with you and the previous callers. This is what we're doing. We are struggling to understand how we can have a better tomorrow than the today that we're having. We're
So then
struggling.
I'm not struggling to understand. I know exactly what needs to be done, and I know,
But you are one of
but
you are the one of the minute fraction of us, that understands. But the
but I
masses of our
but
people, the
so
masses of our people have no understanding of what you're talking about. None whatsoever.
and that's because I don't think they want to. I think that is where the
Well,
problem is.
okay, well, I don't.
It's not how to get it. It's not that it's unachievable. It's the desire I find that our people don't have.
No.
A lot of them don't have any desire to read,
That
and
is
they
true.
don't.
What they are.
And I think that is where the thing is. The desire for change. A lot of our people are just willing to go along. They complain about, the potholes and all the different things,
Uh,
but they don't have a deep desire to have any of those things
uh,
change.
I agree with you. I agree with you. I agree.
So
But still, I
they
say
go and
it
they
is.
vote for the same politicians that had them in potholes for the last 10 years.
Yes,
They
indeed.
go and vote those, if not that same politician, one just like them. So that there's a desire, they kind of want things to change, but they're not willing to sacrifice anything to make that change.
I agree with you. And my response is just simply is that, hey, I am not giving up, and I hope that there are enough of us that are not going to give up. No matter how difficult it is, we are not Sisyphus trying to get this boulder at top of the mountain. We are, you know, totally laser focused on our objective. And like I said, it took over 200 years to get rid of the yoke of chattel enslavement. But we did. And many thought that we never would, but we did. It took over 2 centuries, but we did. And now here we are, a century and 3/4 since July 3rd. And we are still struggling at it. I don't know how long it's going to take, but I, for one, could tell you here, I am not giving up. I'm only 86 years old.
And I think that's the key is what we have to work on is having more of us want to change, want to
There you
really
go.
want
There
to
you
to
go.
the
There you
point
go.
of willing to make sacrifices for the needed sacrifices.
Well, there
Right
you are.
now, most of us want change, but we want somebody else to make the sacrifice for.
Well, there you
We
are.
don't want to make any kind of sacrifice to get that change. And that's to say that if the
Well,
You know, that was not, it wasn't a question at all. But they were to the point where they were willing to put their lives on the line.
well,
Not
believe
to
you
be
me, and
competent
you know it,
anymore.
you know it better than most. It didn't start, you know, here in North America. It started from way back in Europe, from the Dark Ages, from the age of enlightenment, even. all of these things, all of this, they had to go through just to be able to realize that yes, we can rise up against the throne, even though we
Right.
don't have blue blood, but
There before,
it took generations. And all I'm saying
yes.
is that okay, so we are now in it. And
And it kind of, and you bring up a very good point that the people who were here in the colonies were people were generations, the heirs or the children of the people who decided to go on a ship cross
there
the
you go, there you go.
ocean.
Well, there you go. So that
So
you know,
it kind of
the
shows
struggle,
how the ones
it ain't easy. It ain't easy. It
right,
ain't easy.
the ones that were satisfied stayed in Europe. So you basically had a shifting, a sorting of the people. So the colonies were filled with people who were already had put a way to put their lives on the on the
You
on
they
the
are.
on the
When you see how you change your point of view already, well, that's all that I'm saying
yeah
is that the struggle continues.
yeah.
Stick with us,
But the
man.
question
Stick
is
with us. Don't give up on us. Don't
how
give
can
up
you
on us yet.
no, I know. But the question now becomes how can you do that in a way where there's not a natural sorting of the people. That there's not that so there they had a natural sorting. The people
Yes, it
who
is.
were
Yes. But
stayed in Europe, the people who
I
were
know, but I've been a bad boy. Those above me here telling me, when was the last time
sometimes
you had a break, Mario? When was the last time you had a break? We need, we need to cut this thing here and have a break because
right,
the federal
that's
government
fine,
can still shut us down.
right, that's fine,
We'll talk some more. We'll
right,
talk some more.
right,
But I got to take a break.
right.
Take care. We talk.
Okay,
Alrighty.
okay.
Old strain, beloved. We'll be right We're back, and we got a caller being patient, so let's let them in. Good afternoon,
Pleasant good afternoon.
and to you a big welcome. Thank you for your
Thank you.
patience.
A happy Virgin Ancestry Month.
How about that? Thank you.
Well, I am somewhat anxious because of what's happening in the nation and internationally. It seemed like this president wants us start World War III.
Doesn't-
And I don't
it's
understand
beyond
why.
it's beyond seeming for someone who doesn't have a television, and I'm not up to date like you. From the little that I have seen for the past, week, I could say it's beyond seeming. It looks like he is pointed directly, at some major confrontation, if not world war, then I don't know what, but a lot of worry.
Yeah, and it's a concern with violation of international human rights, um, total disregard to human life for children. My understanding in one of those strikes, children were killed.
Yes, so I heard. Matter of fact, I forgot the number now, but almost 200.
Right, and it is according to the U.S. Constitution, Congress is the one that declares war. And if this is not a war, I don't know what is. I mean, people are getting
Right.
killed. The president of Venezuela was kidnapped.
Right.
We don't know. I don't know what's the status of that.
I don't
And
either, but
I'm not hearing from the United Nations, the World Health Organization. Why the silence? I just don't get it. And
well,
I
it
heard.
seems to be that the big bully on the block, President Donald Trump is saying, hey, we've got the biggest, baddest military that the world has ever known, and we are now using it to take control, and everybody's going to have to follow the footsteps behind us or pay the price.
And his son isn't going to war. His son not going to be drafted. I heard some people, young men and women from St. Croix,
Yeah.
have been sent um, to sacrifice for what?
Well,
It's
that's
not like
just it.
we're not defending democracy.
But that's
We're not
just it, as you
defending
have
the
pointed
United
out,
States.
you know, implicitly, you didn't become explicit about it, but implicitly you said that the Congress, you know, has by allowing him to define these incidents as whatever he calls them other than war, so that the Congress, it could be comfortable because they could say, well, hey, we're not at war. So it's not like he violated, the Constitution. We're not at war. And so there
That's
we are.
crazy.
And we are all now, uh, well, faced with the reality. Either you're following the footsteps of Donald Trump, or you get yourself in trouble because you got the what they call it, the ICE people and all these that come and arrest you, that lock you up, the kind of thing, and hey, uh, it's some serious times as you are pointed out, very very serious.
And he got his supporters on Facebook too, defending him because I saw a post about somebody from a scientist or something from Canada who claims that white tall beings, extraterrestrial beings, are here, and that explains the rapid development of digital technology and other advancement. and they in contact with the United States government. And I'm like, well, apparently they have not talked to Trump, or either he's not listening, because this is the most unintelligent, in my opinion, and the most immoral president ever been elected. Has no concern for human life. And I posted that comment in reaction to this post about this is a conspiracy theory. Apparently, white, tall aliens from some other planet are here. And this is a secret being kept from the public. And I'm like, well, I don't see no evidence of them assisting Trump, because when he speaks, it's clear that he's incompetent. He's suffering from some type of brain injury. And the members of the Congress is just like, this is silence is definitely.
Well, but that's the issue right there, is that again, and I do not have access to the information like you do, but from where I perch, I see that this is a very unpopular president now, and the things that he is doing are very unpopular, including this thing in Iran. First it was Venezuela, now it's Iran. Very unpopular. But there is absolutely no, well, no effort on behalf of the rest of the government, which is supposed to be the first branch of government, the Congress. There is no effort, to, well, shut him down. They are finding ways to ignore him, as if tomorrow is going to change their mind and cool out and things are going to be different or something. But clearly, as unpopular as he is, as unpopular the things that he's doing and saying, the Congress of the United States is still trying to find ways to not get in his way, to allow him to do his thing. And that's a big issue. Big issue.
And their children are not going to war. Their children are going to be protected in bomb shelters, because my prediction, I hate to predict doom and gloom, but if you're back into a corner, what I see could happen is suicide bombing in the United States. And there's no practical way to look. You can't look at a person and say that's an Iranian terrorist, because you can't just single out people, stereotype people, because you have a lot of American Iranians in the States, and not everybody have that mindset. But when we see people are backed in a corner, they see no other option, that's what I see will happen. Suicide bombings in the United States. And Americans will be safe any place. I mean, it's sad, but
it's beyond sad. It's beyond sad. It's tragic, and again, what I'm saying from my perspective, yes, it's tragic, and it's frightening, because you see no effort on behalf of those who have the power to change things, to actually get out and see about changing things. And I'm talking about the Congress. They are trying to find ways to allow him to do what he wants to do. And that is what is frightening about this tragedy.
And he definitely is not a peacemaker. So the Nobel Peace Prize, I don't think it should be good. It should even have a thought of that. Because America right now appears to be the bully on the block. And that's not making sense. We need to use our intelligence. And I said we are talking human beings in general.
Right.
Use our intelligence to resolve conflict. And obviously, we have not evolved to a higher state of intellect. Because, I mean, just like the other animals, we want to survive. We want, it's survival of the fittest. But not
Well, it's not survival of the fittest at all. Right now, it's survival of Donald Trump because, well, please explain to me why is it that the Congress, that's 435 representatives in the House of Representatives and 100 in the Senate, for a total of 535 people who are in the first branch of government supposed to be looking out for the people. You tell me, why is it that they're doing their best to allow the President of the United States, Donald Trump, to do what he wants to do? Why is that?
I don't know. We're not learning from history with Hitler. Maybe when it's too late, they will start to speak out. Because what I was saying, yes, survival of fittest amongst the species on the earth. But when you're destroying your own earth, that's a suicidal mission. You're taking human civilization and the extinction of the human race, because it's oil. Oil is an issue. But when Iran starts cutting off access to oil, what's going to happen with the gasoline prices here? You can't fight the whole world. I mean, and what I want to associate with the United States, when the United States now is not defending democracy, United States is in violation of human rights, and it's going to impact everybody because the materials coming from the bomb and the soldiers deploying them is going to have an impact, and not only on the environment, but the health, the mental health and physical health of those American soldiers, the psychological. How many families will be psychologically destroyed? And so far it's like 7 military people from the United States have been killed. That's 7 families multiplied the number of friends and loved ones that these individuals have. The psychological impact to the entire nation. So it's just a few people that's speaking out. I don't know. I don't know. I can't explain it. It's like the same phenomenon with Hitler. Why there was so much silence at the time when people saw what she was doing? What kind of force he had over these people? I just look at.
How you doing? How you doing is underscoring what I said. It's like why the tragedy is so frightening, because it's that you don't see any path for it getting better tomorrow. If anything, as you look forward to tomorrow, the day after that, or next week, all you see is things getting worse.
And now, like I said, I am not into biblical prophecy, but more and more Donald Trump is appearing like the Antichrist. And but I'm gonna remain hopeful that with his life is hope. I'm not gonna be silent, but I want to encourage people to just be aware of what's happening. It has an impact, so people may say, well, not happening here, but injustice any place is injustice everywhere. And I see that.
I'm loving your oratory.
Thanks.
What a thing. What a thing. Well, again, let's keep hope alive. Let's keep hope alive.
Thank you. Have a blessed afternoon.
Thank you so much, Rika. Thank you. Alrighty. Uh, yes, beloved. Doesn't look good. You know, doesn't look good. Uh, but somehow the president of the United States, Donald Trump, uh, well, he has convinced himself and is on his way to convincing the Congress that he knows what he's doing and it's the right thing to do. And so they are seemingly getting out of his way to allow him to do what he intends to do. And right now, I guess it's to, I don't destroy Iran. And then when he gets through his destroying Iran, I guess he's going to finish off Cuba. And I don't know, beloved, but from where I sit here, it does not look good. And well, yes, we are about to take our final break of the day. And, well, it has been a very interesting afternoon so far. So we'll take this break and come back for the last lap. So, hold stream, beloved. We will be right back. Good enough, beloved. And yes, last lap time. So get your last lick in. And we've got a caller that, well, holding on and prepared to get their last lick in. So let's open the door. Good afternoon.
Hey, good afternoon, Baba. How are you doing today?
Well, we've had a very interesting afternoon here. Let me tell you that.
I see. I'm tuning in. I'm listening. I'm listening. It's good. It's good.
Good for you. Good for you. Well, here I am now, and I want to hear from you because you always have a very interesting point of view. But you know something, and I wouldn't consider this a criticism, but it's an
Okay.
observation. Is that
Okay.
you usually use somebody else's point of view that
Mm-hmm.
you read and share with me. And
Right.
it's not often that I get to hear your point of view.
Right.
You
Okay.
know, and I'm
So
saying, so
I'm
it's not
glad
a
you asked that.
criticism, but I'm saying, again, no, don't stop with it, girl. Whatever you read
No,
or
no,
share with
no.
me,
But
but I'd
I'm
like to
glad.
hear more of your point of view.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that because I'm just a person, to be honest. Um, just just self-educating myself, just like I heard you earlier, telling somebody, that not everybody, you ask the question like, who taught their parents
Yeah,
and who taught their parents.
right.
So maybe I am one of those that didn't get taught like some people have gotten taught by their parents. So I'm kind of like a late learner, but I could still relate to what people are saying. So I would always use them because that's where my mindset is.
Okay.
I just don't know how to articulate it in my own words because I am very radical in my words. I say different words.
Well,
So I like to
I am here, and I want to be always,
okay,
enlightened. That's
of
why I call
course.
it information and enlightenment. So, hey,
Okay, so
enlighten me.
I'm gonna give you a little piece of what's going on because just like people bring attention to you because you don't watch certain things. So now, you remember the lady named Christy Nolan, who was the U.S. Secretary for Homeland Security.
Well, I
Remember?
know, yes.
So she's been replaced, right?
Uh, yes.
Okay.
That's
So
right.
now,
I was reading about that this weekend. Yes.
yeah. So now she's being replaced by a guy called Mark Wayne Mullen now. Now,
Oh, okay.
if you go and you do your research on who is Mark Wayne Mullen, and the reason why I'm speaking how I'm speaking right now is because the question is the way how America right now, what they are going through, what I am observing, so you're going to hear my words now.
Uh-huh.
What I am observing and I'm watching is that they're not even respecting the Constitution as we speak. You have 357 Congress members in the states right now. Did not pass a bill, which is a resolution where you would put public records for, I guess, people who've been caught in certain behaviors, unethical behaviors. Things. Because if we're going based on ethical, then we're supposed to follow that, right?
Correct.
But right now, our Congress in the United States, our 300 and change of them, is not following that code at all because you ask the question, they are allowing this man to do what he's doing. And why is that if they are the legislative branch?
Right.
Like you said. So I go based on what I'm seeing. And right now, as we speak, what do we do? Because remember, we are territory, we are a colony, we are run by the colonizer. So whatever happens up there, isn't it going to trickle down here to the Virgin Islands? Most likely,
Very
because
good question. Very good question.
we watching this thing and we still here trying to push and move, but is it really gonna matter? You know what I mean? I mean, we could keep it alive. So by you saying like you want to hear my thoughts and things, I'm paying very, very well attention, of what's happening and sometimes I just quote other people's words because I don't know how to put it in my words yet, because I am self-educating myself. Like you said, it's never too late for people to learn. So don't, I will get there soon.
You're doing very well. You're doing very well. Let me just say that. You're doing very well.
So my question is, like we keep saying it's America talk, but we rely on the state, honestly. And what's happening with them, with the Constitution is being violated. Nobody's taking a stand. Ethical code right now, the ethical code has gone through the roof. Nobody's paying attention. And then I got to say something real quick before I get out. I want to tell you who this man is basically is and what his credentials are. And Trump is him.
This is Mark Wayne, you're saying?
Mark Wayne
Mullen, okay.
Right, so now he's the highest undergrad, he got a highest undergrad degree, associate in construction technology. Nothing wrong with that. Maybe he could bring something to the table, but not in that position, Baba. Not in that homeland security position, right?
Right.
Only a U.S. They said only U.S. senator without a bachelor's degree, no law degree, no law enforcement background, no national security experience, and no security intelligence or emergency MGT skills. This is who we are running the United States as a Secretary for Homeland Security.
So wait, one little question. So you said he's a member of Congress?
Yes, as we speak. Trump picked him. He fired Kristi Noem and put him in that place, in that position. And that's a high position.
Okay, so he's a congressman from what state?
I can't tell you that right now because I just
it's all right.
No, but good question, because you make me get more info, so when I do come on, I could answer that question for you. But I like to say thank you for the time, and that's all I want to tell you. That's who's running the Department of Homeland Security as we speak.
Well, right? and I would like to say that today now, you spoke, from your own consciousness, shared with us, and I could only congratulate you. I don't know what else I could say. Congratulations, and you're now saying to me that, hey, you got to go back and do some more research, and hey, that's the perfect answer, So, yes,
you enjoy the rest of your day, and I will always keep watching and always trying to enlighten and even practice more calling your show and talking and getting my words together.
We appreciate you, my dear. We appreciate you. Don't stop learning. Don't stop learning.
I won't.
Okay, good thing. Bye-bye. Good afternoon. Okay, well, beloved, yes, we are in the last lap, and we've had quite an interesting afternoon. Lot of enlightening information. Some people might say, it was controversial. I don't think so. I think, if anything, it was, stimulating. And I would like to think that we could appreciate being stimulated, and hopefully your curiosity would cause you to do a little more research. Good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon, Mario. How are you?
Thank God, man. One day at a time here, we are trying to be enlightened. And so, like I said, I was just saying, we had some very enlightening and informative calls this afternoon. Welcome to you.
Well, good afternoon to your listening audience as well. And in the legal aspect of playing chess out here, not checkers.
Okay, all right.
But we're so far into the game that we really and truly don't understand what's going on with our lives as human beings in terms of what is humanity really and truly about. And it was good for me and a lot of scholars talk about our humanities and being well educated. And the suppressors don't want us to be educated because we will have self-sufficient. We came from farming and we'll go right back to where we come from when we understand who we really and truly are. Feeding ourselves. And I've said it once before that when I was growing up, we had farms on both sides of the family.
Yes.
And everything I've gone after the military and other stuff that I work with, law firms and different things that I've helped in the mainland, I rather come home and be a farmer.
I hear you.
Choose that first, then go off and go to war and all these other stuff. I think I'd have been just perfect there on the farm. I remember sleeping up in my what do you call it? My avocado tree and looking over and just watching how nature takes place when you have the rain out in the sea and there's like a tornado mix and it's sucking up the water from the ocean and it's filtering up in the clouds and then after we know it will start raining. Just seeing nature how it really and truly works, up in the avocado tree.
I hear you.
And those type of things and coming down and before you go up in that tree you got to do all your chores and make sure everything is good and then you get right back down out the tree as just a little break or whatever it would have been. And back to chores, make sure the animals had water and food and everything and check the fencing always as you go along. I always look at the fences. So it's amazing when you know the chores and the things that they bring and planting the different fruit trees and so on, Mario. I mean, that was so amazing. Just learning as a young youth how to plant the seed and this thing grow. And wow, I made something from nothing and so on. That's the basic concept of a tree being born from small and seeing how big it is for me to be up in the tree relaxing. Simple things like that. It uplifts the mind as a child coming up in the community and knowing the importance of farming and storing up the soil to have things to share and trade and feed people along the way because no matter what, we have to eat and
for sure
we have to feed each other.
For sure.
Trading was very important.
Yes, sir.
And so on. And as a little boy, I remember in Christian Hendricks market there, my grandfather, I got in trouble. I had to sit down at the steps, Mario, and tell me, pay attention to what's going on and what the people are doing. And as I sat down as a young man, I watched the people bringing different fruits and vegetables to the market, the trading, and so on. It was big business. Yeah. And before I understand that the value of that's the market. That's where Black Wall Street come from. This is where the stock market and all these things come from.
Right.
From a little youth. And I was so glad. I think that's one of the most powerful things my grandfather did as a punishment to watch me pay attention to the behavior of the people and watch what's really and truly going on.
Right. Yeah.
So I understand Main Street and I understand Wall Street today. But the problem is, Mario, with the economics, and it's very important, the information is right there in front of us. But because the education that we get through the system, it makes some of them don't want to read. It makes some of them don't want to really excel and pick up things and get the information.
Yeah.
And they'll tell you, the information is out there. Well, what do you deny me the information and take the information away from me and not put it in the school curriculum? Had you put it in the school curriculum when I was growing up, it would have grown me as I grew.
Right.
So where's the value of the information that I need dearly to be successful in my community?
Yeah.
And that is the problem that you're saying with the codes and so forth, Mario. And I understand if we had the tools, we could be a lot better with the information.
Oh, yeah, a lot better.
Even today, Mario, I've tried to help family members, the other people. And I'm telling them, listen, how I learn what I know because I'm a reader. I enjoy reading. I love to read.
Yeah.
Grab this. Here's the research. Go look this up. Go find out about this. Don't listen to me, Listen to what the information is telling you.
Right.
And they don't want to marry. They will pay attention to all these other stuff, social media, ignorant, jump up, play around, gaming, but you're an adult. How can you do not know what's going on in the world around you? To pass on generation wealth, which is lack of education, information, what you're doing here in the show, Mario, and what all of us have been trying with the code things, and you and everyone that was involved in that process.
Right.
Okay, in the educational department, your sister, many of the people in the community. We understand the importance of education and information. Okay, it makes us a better person, a better being. We look at humanities, we respect each other, we won't kill each other, we get away from violence, we have more loving and lack of understanding in terms of who we are. They do not want us to love ourselves, Mario. That is the reality. That is our reality. So when we preach these things of humanities and bring it back to love, lack of understanding, and reach one, teach one, help each other, today we don't really know who our neighbors is coming in. We don't even have conversation. Oh, me, I don't talk to that person no more. What? So because you don't talk to them, ain't gonna stop me from talking to them.
Right.
I don't know what you and that person got, but me and that person is different than what you're saying. So we beat up ourselves. We create so much problem, Mario, based on who helped administer it. In other words, who create the community or the world that you live in? Who educates you? Who taught you what you know? Who gave you the information that you know? Well, it's the Europeans. They're still involved. When they lay the foundation, it's still set. So everything that worked in slave, it still works today, just in a modern time. When you look at the laws, the 13th Amendment, how they just get to entrap you to get a crime, and then they turn you into a slave. Then you're in jail. So then we have millions and millions of people incarcerated. Slavery still exists, Mario.
Yeah.
And the plantation, just in a different form of way. And when people really understand the laws and the information, it's very mind-boggling. You could get away from that. You would know what is for you, what is not for you. And humanity will take this place of life, Mario. So I will leave with the science of it, Mario. Simmer down, bite and blow, right? Our heart, our body, who we are inside.
Yes.
We have fire burning, blazing within us. People don't understand it. Our body has fire, like lava. The blood is like lava that's burning within inside of you.
Right.
So whatever you add to that fire, that's what you're going to get. You know? So in other words, you should be drinking in cold water, Mario, because it slows down your inside, your organs. It makes the organs work harder.
Yeah.
Because you're slowing down the lava from flowing. Now, a woman DNA is more hotter than a male DNA. Okay? Now, when you say as humans, both male, female, we have the same temperature. No, the woman will always be more hotter than the male. That's just human nature of it, man. That's the science of it. Okay?
Right.
So in the south, where the sun shines more, the female will live longer than the male. Now, if you reverse that in the winter, the female will pass on faster than the male. The male will survive the colder weather because of the DNA of it, of a male and a female. So that's where the hot and cold come together, and that's where pressure pots fights right there. When hot, it's cold, you get steam. So that's the science part of it, Mario.
Yes, sir.
And I remember growing up, our elders always had to give us tea, warm water. They always boil the water no matter what. And they always drink that first thing in the morning and at night before they go to bed to get that fire back into you.
Right.
And to flush away all this nonsense that we have gone through throughout the day. So you gotta have that hot water in you in the morning and at night. And sometimes throughout the day too.
I hear you.
Keep that fire burning within you.
This is what I call
that is our humanity
Well, this is what I call enlightening information. And I thank you for sharing it with us.
Yeah.
Give thanks. Yes, beloved, we are down to the last minutes of the last lap. And, well, our information and enlightening for this Wednesday afternoon, because, well, as I try to explain, my one and only sister, she is a career educator, a retired teacher that is now a member of the board of education. So she retired from education, but is still with education. And I try to respect that by, well, doing my best to keep it going by, well, making my best attempt to explain to the beloved audience that, hey, knowledge is what education is about. And knowledge comes in two kinds. And that's what we've been trying to share here. That there is the scientific knowledge that is universal and, well, the same wherever you find it. And that's why I've been oversimplifying it by saying 1 + 1 = 2 wherever you go. It doesn't matter. And that is scientific knowledge, is universal. But then the other kind of knowledge is the one we call the humanities, which deals with the, well, what we would consider to be our values, our principles, our beliefs. And again, it is why we struggle for our mental emancipation. Because July 3rd, 1848, our ancestors were successful in abolishing chattel enslavement. Physical slavery came to an end. And from that day forward until today, almost a century and 3/4. A century and 3/4, almost 2 centuries now, that we have been struggling to emancipate our minds. And that is much easier said than done, beloved. So much easier said than done. And that is why we call it enlightening information. And we hope that we've been able to stimulate your curiosity enough that you found the enlightening information of use to you. We have now made it a full afternoon. And with that we say, beloved, we are only too grateful that you came along with us. And we hope that you found it sufficiently stimulating to consider it enlightening information. And with that, I say, it don't matter how big a basket they give us to full up. Beloved, 1-1, we will full up that basket just as long as we do it together.